You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin already stirring everything up in the chat. We got Emilio in Tennessee. Everybody just kind of munching on stuff, which is totally cool. Tim, you kill your camera anytime you need, bud. You hammer.
I already killed that sandwich. It's gone.
Smashed it out.
It's smashed out of there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Hey, that's
Bro, really?
I love it, man. The chat's already just smoking. I don't know how many people we got on Rumble. I'll try to pull it up here, but it's obviously going to be a great show here this evening when we got a packed house. We got a lot to cover too, so I'm going to waste no time and just jump right into everything. First things first, let's handle the important business. Let's give a shout out. We're going to cover a number of different topics, so we're going to go rapid fire here. I want to make sure we get everything in. And this was pretty cool, man. On the Homer Hour, he actually – do you guys listen to the Homer Hour by chance? Steve the Homer True. You should give it a shot. Homer, it's usually what I listen to as I'm prepping for the show. And he's just kind of this old school radio guy, covered the Packers for a very long time. You guys remember the video that we showed where Brett Favre was breaking glasses in that bar, throwing the football around? Yeah. That was Steve the Homer True in there, right? So I personally like him. He's kind of brash. He's kind of that old school approach of he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks and not try to be, all worried about hurting people's feelings. But he had Terrell Buckley on the show, and they talked about this new defensive scheme change as well as Jair Alexander. And many people were going, who the heck's Terrell Buckley? I know, Emilio, not to call you out, you didn't know, right? You had no clue, right?
No clue.
That
makes sense. Emilio's not old enough to ride that ride.
I wasn't even born yet.
So what I thought I'd do is pull a clip here real quick. This was Terrell Buckley in the famous game where Brett Favre comes in and finishes the game against the Bengals when Don Mikowski went out with the ankle injury. And Terrell Buckley with a punt return touchdown here.
And now we'll get a chance to see Terrell Buckley, the Jim Thorpe of the second half of the century.
Self-proclaimed.
That's right. That's what he says, and I still haven't quite understood it, but I certainly like this guy. He's got a lot of ability and a lot of confidence.
And you like Thorpe, too.
Thorpe was one of my favorites, too. What number was Thorpe?
Early part of the century. Buckley from the 43. Boom! Here we go! He gets it from the Sison, and a little of the Deion Sanders style magic for another Seminole, Terrell Buckley.
Hey, Jim Thorpe never did it any better than that.
I mean, a lot of Jim Thorpe comparisons being thrown around pretty casually there by the announcers, but no, T-Buck was the man though. He was exciting to watch, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So Terrell Buckley, obviously, he was a top 5 pick. I think he was the 5th overall pick, and I kind of told Tim and Emilio off the air, like, you know, Terrell Buckley was kind of, to me, compares to A.J. Hawk in a sense of he was a great player, but people didn't view him as a great player because he was such a high pick. It's like if he had been a 2nd-round pick, he'd probably be a Packer Hall of Famer. I don't think he's in the Packers Hall of Fame. But what's cool is look at this statistic here, too. If I understood correctly, these are his career statistics, okay? So he played in the league for quite a while, obviously. He played for, 13 years, I believe? Let's see, 6, 9, 11, 12, 13 years. So he played in the NFL for 13 years. He was kind of labeled as the next Deion Sanders coming out. I think Florida State is where he played college ball, if I remember correctly. Kick returner, obviously a defensive back. If I understood correctly, he's the only player in NFL history to have 50 career interceptions and not make a Pro Bowl. And also – of the players that are not in the Packer or the players that are not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I believe he's 11th in career interceptions with those 50 interceptions. So some people are going, okay, Clayton, why are you bringing all this up? He was on the Homer Hour with Steve the Homer True and was just kind of asked about the defensive change as well as Jair Alexander. So let's see what Terrell Buckley had to say about Jair.
It's going to be tough.
Talking with T-Buck, right, so you're expecting a big year from Jair, but I'm assuming he's not going to have that many interceptions. Nobody gets interceptions.
He's going to have enough. If you watched last year, I feel like he started to make more plays on the ball. Mm-hmm. He was the explosion I saw was coming back. He was healthy finally. And I think the system is allowing him. He has a new DB coach that I know.
You know him?
Ashley.
You know him?
Yeah, I know him. Yes, I know him. That he's going to install some things in him.
How do you know him?
To make it happen. Well, just recruiting. He was in college with me, college coach.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years ago, he called me and drafted one of my players from Ole Miss. So we talked a little bit. We talked scheme, some different things. And this mini camp that you guys just had, one of my GAs, Trey Bell, who's another fine young coach, going to be in the NFL soon. He was telling me a little bit about what was happening up there.
What Hafley's
and
doing.
The way Jair, and how Jair is looking. So
what can you tell us?
He's back. He's a dog. That's what he said. That's the exact words.
Jair's a dog. He's back.
He's a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then.
Hurt shoulder.
All right.
Feeling this way. You know how sometimes some guys, when you get hurt and you know you that top player and you can't put in that time, that work, that preparation because you in the rehab, you're training, trying to get back healthy. You don't go out and play the way that you, in your mind, you want to play that way, but physically you can't.
All right, so he's healthy now.
Yes.
It will
like
Hafley's
last night.
All right, he's a dog. We will tell the world that T-Buck says Jair's back. He's a dog again.
Yes.
When was the last time he was a dog with the Packers? I don't know. You'd have a couple years.
Before
the shoulder.
Before the play, the swing pass, when he ran up and smacked the running back and hurt his shoulder.
Okay. Before then. All right. And Hafley, style, what can you tell us? Anything you want to tell us about Jeff Hafley?
Not Jeff. Ashley is one of the bright minds of adjustments, right? Like you can say, I want to play cover 3.
Yeah.
He understands, again, if they're an I-back, are they strong? The receivers place this way. The splits between receiver 1 and the slot is a little bit wider than normal. He understands, number 1, going to run slant. Little things like that. He's actually going to coach schematically and going to get the players to understand this is when you go in and this is when you make that play. This is how you finish. And that's what you're going to get.
What will people be able to notice anything? Will anything stand out, or what will stand out the most with the defense in Hafley? Or is that a question that can't
That's
be
going to
answered?
be one of them. That's going to be one of them. Communication. You're going to have less blown coverages and not as many mismatches. So you're going to see that, I would say, within the first 5 or 6 games, once you compile the data, you're going to see the difference.
Everybody will look like they know where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. There'll be no confusion.
Yes. And so
nobody looking at each other.
If somebody gets beat, which they will, that person is going to be on that receiver, and they're going to make a good play. And that happens in the NFL all the time.
Just get beat. All right, Jordan Love.
All right, so there you go. There was Terrell Buckley, again, former Packer, talking about Jair Alexander. Now, again, he's talking to multiple people in the building, it sounds like, and they're kind of bragging on Jair, this new Jair, this rejuvenated Jair. I'm going to be 100% honest. Felt like he was kind of making some excuses for Jair, but I hope he is right. I hope he's right this year. So we'll go around the horn with that, everything he said, talking about the splits, talking about the things that Haf may coach up a little better. As far as, hey, when you get this wide of a split in this certain set, this certain formation, be looking for a slant here, be looking for a stutter and go there, all those type of things. But what do you guys think? Are we buying that? Are we buying into the, hey, Ja's going to be back? I'll start with you, Tim. How do you feel about that?
Just here to tell you, Pack is back.
You heard
You heard it from a fan. I'm telling you, that's how I feel, right there. No, I like what T-Buck said. Particularly what he mentioned about Coach Ansley. Coach Ansley is well versed in scheme, and he's a great kind of a DB whisperer in his own right as well. So I think working in this new system, Jair is he's gonna flourish. I really do. They tried some things with him last year, playing closer to the receiver, a little bit more on ball as opposed to off ball, if you will, and didn't work out too well for him. I know what you mean when you say that. It sounded like he was making some excuses for him. It's true. That's not a secret, man. I mean, he blew out that shoulder. He hasn't really been the same player since then.
That's a fact.
A little bit more tentative. And then going rogue in Joe Barry's scheme doesn't help either. So when he's saying, "Oh, he's making plays on the ball," yeah, that's because he's breaking coverage and running at the ball instead of playing his assignment. So I think if all of that's shored up, we still have that the right mindset here. Ja is a leader in that secondary. It's Jair and Xavier McKinney back there. That's who's running the secondary, in my opinion. So I think this will be the year we do see. Maybe the job old when it comes to the play on the field. But Jair is going to be Jair when it comes to the wonderful antics and, all the hype that comes with a player like that makes him fun to watch. So I think he'll put the 2 and 2 together. Like you always say, Clayton, we don't mind a little talking, a little razzle dazzle, but you got to get your work done on the field. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Jair of old back at it once again.
Took it down the sideline, turned over my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
Because I mean, the reality is, if we get the best version of Ja, I mean, he was arguably the best corner in the league, right? So yeah, it's exciting. Amelia, what do you think, man?
I mean, sometimes when you don't have 100% buy-in, you're not going to throw that shoulder in on every tackle. And even them forcing him to play up close to the line, if it wasn't working for him, hopefully DA or Hafley can get him a technique or have him feel the confidence and be able to walk up. I mean, the dude's an athlete. It's not like he can't run with these guys. I think he just, needs a couple of other tricks up his sleeve to feel like he's got a one-up on the receiver and we'll be good to go. But I think tying into that, Tim, there was a Saban and Belichick movie or whatever on Max. I was watching it, but literally the only thing I took away from that is do your job.
Yes.
That is what this defense is going to be about this year. If everyone can do your 111th or whatever they want to call it, do your job 111th, do it for everybody else on the field but yourself, but just do that job that is in front of you, your receiver, running back, D-line, whatever. I think that Hafley's going to be able to get that out of him. I think making it as simple as possible is going to help, but that's going to be big as long as they buy in. They still need to do their one specific thing so that the play can work as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys haven't seen that, what Emilio's talking about, it's on HBO Max, or what's now called Max. Phenomenal documentary. It's awesome. It's just basically Bill Belichick, Nick Saban sit down talking ball. Yeah. I love how it ended too, didn't you? They cut it, all right, and then immediately went right back to talking balls.
Yeah, it was just how they started it. Yeah, you got your star defender, the strong side nickel, then you got your port defender or your port inside corner, and the way that does he buzz down? And it was cool, man. They wanted the cameras off for that first that first interaction of talking ball.
Yeah, I just love these inner circles, man. I don't know. Michael Lombardi, in his first book, he wrote Gridiron Genius. Excellent read if you guys haven't read it. He talks about how he got to go down with Belichick and sit in. They had dinner with Nick Saban. It was just them at the house. Miss Terry was gone. She was out doing something, and they just got to talk ball. Phenomenal. Michael Lombardi on his podcast just a couple of days ago said that Bill Belichick brought the boat up, stopped in Jersey City, and hung out with them. I think it's Jersey City. No, what is it? Atlantic City, wherever. What is it?
Ocean City.
Ocean City. That's it. Yeah. And hung out. They grilled some steaks, and he hung out with, just the greatest coach of all time. Pretty cool. But Jacob, what do you think about what T-Buck said there, man? Are you skeptical? You think this is going to be Ja's year? What do you think, man?
Let me just go on the record as saying that I think that it's fair to be semi-critical of Ja, especially last year, and honestly for the last couple of years, especially since he got that big since he got the bag. Because if you're the top three paid cornerbacks in the league, I expect you to not have to be coached or get a coaching change to get you motivated to go throw your shoulder down and make a play. I do agree though, like if Emilio talked about if his game is that I don't prefer to be up close, doing more kind of bump and run or any sort of press or any kind of like that. Like he has a way of playing the ball. Like he likes to play the ball. Hopefully, I think Hafley's made it known that he's one of those coaches that is going to go in there and say, what do you like to do? What do you like the defense to do? What kind of schemes do you like to run? And he's not just going to go in there and say, this is what we're doing. I think maybe Barry did that a little. We all said that Barry was maybe a little too soft. Maybe it was a pushover. Maybe it was kind of the opposite. And he was like, hey, this is what we're running, and gave him a little bit of leeway within that scheme. But I just think that Ja needs to really play up to the level that we're paying him. And this year, I don't think he has any other option because of the fact that we have so many other storylines, whether it be the Stokes, the Val, the Bell, the Kalen King, even guys like Nixon. So we forget about the safeties that could be cross kind of hybrid slot guys. So I'm on record, and you guys can throw this in my face, that I have been bearish on Jair lately, and I hope that he.
Bro, really?
Yeah. All right, there you go. Jacob has spoken. Ron Stanville in the chat says shoulder is such a rough injury to heal during the season. Have a tendency to always try to protect it when trying to tackle. Very good point there. And then Coach Lynn chimed in and said Ja was freelancing in that Panthers game we watched yesterday a lot. And that's something you got to fix. You got to get past that, like Jacob was saying. I think it's a fair critique, Jacob. I really do, man. I think many fans are thinking it. Not many say it because they know they're going to get raked over the coals, especially if they say it on social media. But we got to get back to the old Ja. And something that's worth mentioning, too, is the fact that we're getting to the portion of that contract where there's not much guaranteed money left. I mean, you're approaching next year, the year after. If he continues to degrade, I guess is the right word, if he continues to slide backwards, who's to say that they won't look up and go, all right, let's see what we can get for him, right? I hope he returns back to that old form. I know you do too, Jacob. I know everybody here does. It's just like you said, when that cap hits so high, man, you better be living up to it, right? We talk about the percentage of cap used, Emilio, all the time, man. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So, speaking of that, why don't we talk about another defensive player on that side of the ball? Rashawn Gary been getting them workouts in. Check out this clip right here, boys. I tried to splice as much together I could of Gary. Look how lean this dude looks. To me, it looks like he lost 10 or 15 pounds. I could be wrong, but it looks like he's trimmed down.
Right there, yes, sir, right there. Turn right there, yes, man.
I know the people in the pod are going, what the hell did I just listen to? What was that?
Dude, that dude
just some dogs doing
He's
some
a
work.
Dog.
Yeah. Bro, he looks like he's in the best shape of his life, man. Yeah, he literally has that dog. And here's the thing too, like there was a lot of Rashawn Gary slander last year. And, it got kind of heated during the season. And obviously he's coming off that ACL. He fought his ass off to get back in time to play. I remember being shocked that he was going to be able to play. And the fact that he performed at the level he did, to me, was just really impressive. And there were some people where he's not worth the money. He's not worth the money. Let's just run through that real quick. 2021 PFF grades. This is the Packers' entire defense. Rashawn Gary led the way, 89.8. All right, Jair Alexander, 73.4 that year. All right, only 227 snaps, but just kind of compare and contrast here, all right?
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
So he was the top graded defensive player for the Packers, according to PFF, in 2021. In 2022, looky here, the top graded Packers defender, according to PFF, at an 82.9. Jair was second at 80.3. 2023, the top graded Packer on defense at a 79.0 last year. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you think he's playing up to the standard of the money that they're paying him and what the contract truly is, he is our best defensive player according to PFF. Now, I understand PFF isn't everything, right? If you go minimum 15 pressure percentage, he led the entire Green Bay Packers defense in pressure percentage at 16.3%. Devontae Wyatt was 14.3. Preston Smith was 12.1. LVN, look at that number, boys, 11.2. Not too bad for a rookie, right? Kenny Clark, the largest cap hit we got, 9.6%. Okay. And again, Carl Brooks, pressure percentage kind of low, but we've seen he played really solid against the run as well. Just played schematically sound. I think Carl Brooks played really well. Now, when you go to 2023 pressure percentage and you include the minimum pass rushes there, Quay Walker actually led the team in pressure percentage at 22.2%. You got to understand that's scheming up pressure, right? When you're trying to fire, whether he's the Will or the Mock in that nickel 2-4-5 that we were running. Nickel's going to look very similar. It's going to be a nickel 4-2-5. The edges are most of the time going to have their hand in the dirt now, like we were seeing Gary on that workout video. But Quay Walker here obviously shows he can get after the quarterback. But again, Rashawn Gary, if you look at the pass rushes, Quay Walker only had 59 pass rushes. Rashawn Gary had 365. All right, there's only Preston Smith had more pass rushes than Rashawn Gary. And he finished with, 4.2% more or higher pressure rate, I should say, Rashawn Gary did. So when you look at all those numbers, again, the best defensive player in 21, 22, 23, led the team in pressure percentage. And you look at his salary cap hit. Guys, he's the 23rd highest cap hit at the edge position in the entire NFL at 11.1. To put that into perspective, Preston Smith is 17th at 14.1 this year for 2024. So the 23rd highest paid edge defender in the entire league just so happens to be our best defensive player on our roster. We got to stop with the Rashawn Gary slander. Again, I think this year he's going to come out and play. Just
pull that back up for me real quick, Clayton.
Come at the salary cap?
No, the last list, yeah. Just at the top there, we got our man Hassan Reddick, currently still wanting a contract and in Japan at a cosplay event, I believe. So we are here's a guy that is ready to go. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then we got I don't know. I think we're just blessed, honestly. We got Preston, we got Rashawn, two veterans ready to set the tone. I can't wait. You heard it in the video, the first clip. That dude is absolutely working. Running through sand's not easy. All those drills, he's launching from his stance with a 20-pound sandbag in his hand, and then explodes from there. Then dips and rips. Like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt.
I look at the numbers. You know, when I say the numbers, I mean his contract numbers, and look at his stats, and look at what he's been bringing to the table. I feel like we got good value. You know, like I don't understand how people can complain about, you know, the contract that he signed. You know, I feel like we're blessed to have a guy like Rashawn on our defense for sure. And this could be that year that he really just launches to that next level. So it's going to be exciting to see.
Right. And I'm pretty sure I heard Wes Hawkowitz, he was saying that Rashawn, Kenny, and Preston were all going to get the D-line together down in Texas or Cali over the break.
Yep, that's what Rashawn actually said. Yeah, so that's where he got that from. So that's obviously straight from the source. Coach Lynn says a year removed from the ACL, going to have a huge year. Book it. Jacob, what do you think about our boy Rashawn Gary this year, man?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was one that was, I wouldn't say critical of Rashawn, but I was one that was like, man, can you please, you know, give us a little bit more production? But again, I think there has to be something said to that. We don't know exactly what he was being told to do in that scheme, what his responsibilities were on every given play. We saw specifically that in one half of the year, he was a bit more concerned about just rushing upfield, not really worrying about contain. And then it seemed like that kind of swapped throughout the year. So I'm sure that gets into his head too, where we looked at anywhere that he's been, including college, throughout the pros, they've kind of given him an assignment, a specific, you know, thing that he's responsible for, and he's kind of puts the team above his own specific kind of acolytes or his own stats, and I think that just shows what kind of player he is. We saw it when he got drafted, how emotional he was. We see it in almost every offseason. This one's no different. If anything, it looks like he is slimmed down. He's going to be a little bit more maybe agile, maybe a little bit more I don't know, graceful or twitchy, whatever you want to say there. But I really do like Chris was saying, and like Coach Lynn said, between him and Preston, we kind of know what we have there. We might be sleeping on how good Enigbari and LVN, and then my boy Cox coming up the rear, you know. I just think that
just the tip, though.
We have a lot of edge defenders that are really good at being able to maybe take that next step to the point where we could have a rotation that's unreal. You can't block them.
Very well said.
What's the matter? Can you guys please keep it together? This is
sometimes I think you guys get together offline and go, "Hey, at this point, this is what we're gonna do, guys."
We'll do it live, man. Just
all right. Angus McHaggis says Cox being the number 5 makes me feel pretty good about that group.
Absolutely,
I agree.
Like I said.
Yeah, like him, Smitty said, feeling really good about our edge defenders. You know, we showed in the Carolina game, I think it was the Carolina game, right, where Kingsley Enigbari strip sack, fumble, recovered the fumble and everything, right? That's another guy that we don't talk about enough. Coach Lynn's saying don't sleep on LVN. And, again, if we look at that pressure percentage, minimum 15 rushes, LVN was actually 4th on the team. He was ahead. Pressure percentage, he was ahead of let's see here. Sorry. There we go. He is ahead of Kenny Clark, Enigbari, and Carl Brooks. So LVN actually, kind of pulled his weight there when he was on the field last year. So
thick.
He is thick. You're right. I'm excited to see what they all do this year, man. And again, you're getting LVN with a full year under his belt, right? I think that's going to be absolutely huge. So let's see here. M. Smitty, yeah. Big thing Rashawn needs to work on is not losing his contain, at least from my perspective. Here's the cool thing about the 4-3 now. With those stacked backers, instead of that 34 jam, Rashawn was having to focus on that contain. Not that he won't play any contain in the run game. He will still play a little contain. But now it's just get upfield and you annihilate the run on your way to the passer. And the reason being is in a 34 front, those defensive line and even the three defensive linemen are controlling two gaps. They're working side to side, right? They're trying to control two gaps, and one backer is going to attack, right? Or two backers can attack, essentially. With the 4-3, you've got four guys up front like that are, hand in the dirt. They're going to attack one gap, and now those linebackers with three stack backers in that base, which we're only going to be in probably 25 to 30% of the time, but still, they're going to be attacking two gaps. So now they've got two gap responsibility as opposed to the defensive linemen have two gap responsibility. So the defensive line is going to be way more aggressive in that regard. And I think Rashawn Gary, that's probably why he trimmed down just a touch too. No longer is it set the edge, hold the point of attack, right, and force a run back inside. It's just going to be dip and rip, punch, pull, swim, get over the top, and hit home. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be playing a lot more aggressive in that regard. So I'm really, really excited about that. But Tim, you got anything to add to this, bub, before we move on to this clip from Ross Tucker and the GOAT, Greg Cosell?
I think with what you just said, that being said, is we still have to watch that over pressure, over pursuit into the backfield too much. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to not have to worry so much about contain or like you said, forcing the run inside or the action inside. It's just beat your man and get home. But, you also have to know what your depth is, your rushing depth on these plays and being in the right lane. And I think that's something that Rashawn, each year as he's been a pro since he showed up for Michigan, he's gotten better at that. He's an absolute technician when it comes to his craft. So I think he's going to take a step in the right direction. But that is something to keep an eye on, that he's not getting too far deep into the backfield on some of these rushes.
Yep. And when you look at this and how the Pete Carroll style, Robert Saleh defense, if they take that approach, in a 4-3 over, 4-3 under, and a 4-3 bear, that like with the 4-3 bear, it's a run heavy formation that sometimes calls up two linebackers onto the edge of the defensive front, bringing up the strong safety alongside the remaining linebacker. So with the 4-3 bear, you're bringing those two guys up. You're essentially got a 6-man front, right? And you're going to be bringing that strong safety into the box to play what we call that spur position, to act as that second linebacker. In a 4-3 under, you got a pass rushing front that brings the strong side or the Sam linebacker up to the line of scrimmage on the shoulder of the tight end alongside the defensive end. See, that's what Gary was essentially running out of that 34 jam last year. Now he's going to be on the inside shoulder while you're going to have another one of those backers come up if indeed they are in a 4-3 under at any point. With the 4-3 over, standard look with three linebackers behind a 4-man front that is shifted into the strong side gaps of the offensive line. So, again, 4-3 over, the easiest way to remember it. Over, they're going to be shaded over the tight end side, the strong side. Under, they're going to be shaded under or the weak side, right? The defensive front is. And then with that bear, you're kind of bringing that old school, almost like a 5-2 defense from the olden days. We're dating ourselves now, but you're going to be bringing that 6-man front. So it's going to be wild to see exactly how Hafley approaches this. But again, I'm trying to curb the enthusiasm and make sure that we're putting that disclaimer out there for our listeners that we're not going to be in the 43 a whole lot. You're going to be in that nickel, like I said, somewhere between 75 and probably 82, 83% of the time, depending on how aggressive he wants to be in that regard. Do you want to play big nickel? How do you want to approach that? So
yeah, but now we're in nickel 4-2-5.
Right, exactly. Way different.
We'll better watch out.
Exactly. Oh man. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to another pod that I was listening to today. This was Ross Tucker, former offensive lineman, played for like 5 or 6 different teams in the league. Love his podcast. If you guys aren't following it, it's called the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He's got a multiple multiple different podcasts, like a college draft podcast, a gambling podcast as well. It's really good. He has Greg Cosell on. For those of you who don't know, Greg Cosell's worked at NFL Films for like 40 years. His uncle, if I remember correctly, was Howard Cosell, the old Monday Night Football announcer, guy that was a real close friend of Muhammad Ali, just been around sports his whole life, really, Greg Cosell has. So Greg Cosell is just, to me, I take his opinion. He would never say this, but I put more value on his opinion than some former players. That's how much tape he's watched. And he spends so much time with the coaches. Sometimes you can get talking ball with a former player and you go, oh, what are they doing here? Well, I don't know. I have to talk to the coach. Well, Greg Cosell spends his time at NFL Films in the offseason. And whenever there's a coach that's looking to get back into the league, guess where they spend their time? They get access to the vault at NFL Films, and they go through and they study what's going on in the game today. He spent a whole summer studying film with Steve Spagnuolo. Obviously, Steve – Spags was a defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. That was a top 3 defense last year. So that's the type of, when he says something, it's not coming from, here's what I think. It's coming from, here's what coaches have told me. Here's what the film shows. And I love that he removes all contractual things. He removes all disciplinary off the field issues. It's strictly what does the tape show. But here's Ross Tucker and Greg Cosell talking about our Green Bay Packers. We'll pause it about halfway through and get your all's take, and then we'll finish it up.
Packers, speaking of age, Greg, they're so young. They're so young. And it's interesting in this era where everybody is trying to get these elite receivers, the Packers just keep drafting guys, and they're good. I mean, how about the rookie year that Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks had last year? And Watson was banged up. I mean, and then they had the 2 rookie tight ends. I mean, I've never seen that before. 2 rookie tight ends, 2 rookie receivers. And I think they're all good.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned Reed and Wicks, because I spent a lot of time this week actually watching Jordan Love, who I thought improved so much as the year progressed. But the point I wanted to make about Reed and Wicks is Reed is I think those are the 2 receivers that stood out the most to me. They really started to expand Reed as the season progressed. He became a motion receiver for them as well as a slot receiver. He was their biggest third down target. So I think he's a big factor. And Wicks, a couple of years ago, he had a great, I forget what year it was. It was either maybe 2022. He had a great year at Virginia. And then in 2023, 2021, he had a great year. In 2022, it kind of fell apart with their offense. But he is a big physical receiver, works between the numbers so well, has a pretty refined feel for settling into zones. Those 2 guys really stood out to me. And again, I'm not going to sit here and make a fantasy prediction in terms of numbers, but those were the 2 receivers that really stood out.
So let's just pause it there for a second, get your all's take on that. You guys remember when we drafted Wicks, if you listened to the pod at the time, I said, Greg Cosell specifically said, leading up to the draft when he did his wide receiver breakdowns, Dontavian Wicks, his quote was, this kid just gets it. He gets it. And what he meant by that was he knew how to run every route on the tree, and he knew how to use leverage. He knew how to separate, all those things. And then you're seeing it transition, or translate, I should say, to the NFL level. Also, I want to say this. We talk about Jaden Reed, how we had to go back and look 1 year prior. He had a great year. Then the year before the draft, he kind of struggled, right? Same thing with Dontavian Wicks. I'm telling you, man, when it comes to Goody and wide receivers, he's willing to go back an extra year and go, all right, who's the pick of the litter here? You know what? Let's treat them as if that was their last year in college. That's kind of what it feels like to me. So that's something we're going to continue to adjust and add to our draft board as we get into draft season again. But what he said about Wicks here, I want to mention this. Smitty sent me this over on Twitter. Appreciate you, Smitty. This is just a quick chart. This is a quick chart.
Bro, really?
Let me get it.
Bro, really?
This quick chart here. So for those of you on the pod, it's basically on one side, it's got slot, catch point, and YAC grade, all right, yards after catch grade. And then on the other side, it's separation graded on all routes, minimum of 100 slot routes, okay? And basically what you're looking for is the players in the upper right are basically the best at both, right? You're kind of looking for that balance. You see Dontavian Wicks, I mean, these are the players that he's ahead of on separation graded on all routes, minimum 100 slot routes. He's ahead of Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave. The only players that were higher than him were Zay Flowers, Michael Wilson, Calvin Ridley, and Justin Watson. All right, so he was 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth highest in the slot, separation graded on all routes with a minimum of 100 slot routes. As far as vertically, the only players that were higher than him vertically on this chart here, or the chart as we say, slot, catch point, and yak grade, all right? The only player that was higher than him was Brandon Ayuk. So that's pretty cool. Am I reading that correctly, Emilio? You're probably better at this stuff than me. These young whippersnappers, not these charts. But pretty cool stuff here, man. Again, what Greg Cosell is spot on right here. You know,
it's awesome to see. Honestly, the fact that we have a guy up there, right? We didn't think that we had a wide receiver core. We kept pulling the trigger 2 drafts in a row, and bam, this is what we got. And look who the other G you can make out in there is Jayden Reed. You know, he's a back towards the middle of the pack, but definitely not the bottom. And dude, that's awesome that both the last 2 wide receivers that we pulled in here have made a difference and are on this chart for the minimum 100 slot routes. So both of them were able to run 100 routes this past year in the slot and still have that kind of production, which is great.
I think what's crazy is that people really, don't think, give Goody enough credit for the way that he's drafted specifically in the wide receiver room. Because if you look at everything that we've done, was it Dobbs a 4th rounder, Dontavian Wicks a 5th rounder? We even talk about guys like Heath and Bo Melton that were just UDFAs or guys that nobody really wanted. Even guys like Christian Watson, he was a 2nd round pick, but a lot of people thought that was a reach. I remember that was a big knock on him right away, was that was a reach because he's from a small school, blah, 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 blah. And then what he did with Jayden Reed, I mean, we talked about it. People were like, kind of, what the heck is he talking about? They seem to know exactly what the wide receiver room, like what type of player, what type of prototype they want. And then they draft him. And I mean, it's been, what's the last time we had an absolute bust on the wide receiver room? You could argue it'd be Samori Toure or maybe DeBose or something like that. Like it's been
those guys
years.
are like really late rounds too, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like,
right.
Yeah, pretty wild. And if I'm looking at the dotted line correctly, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's kind of the median, right? Yeah. So Jayden Reed on separation graded on all routes is kind of right there in the median. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And then when you look at the median line there on the vertical aspect, which is the slot, catch point, and yak grade, he's well above it. So it's just Dontavian Wicks just pops off this chart, Tim. It's like, I'm telling you, man, we got to get that dude on the field. I'm not a Christian Watson hater. You guys know I defended Christian Watson to the end of the earth. But you've got to get Dontavian Wicks on the field, man. You've got to at least an even rotation here because you put that dude in the slot. I like the idea of.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
When Jayden Reed needs a breather, right? You think Jayden Reed, to me, he seems like Greg Jennings. That's what I think Jayden Reed is, a true Z, right? So I think Jayden Reed, Greg Jennings. So what's that make Dontavian Wicks? A little bit bigger receiver. You've seen the shoulders on that cat, right? Yak can really break tackles after the catch, can play all over the field, but really fits kind of that slot position as a good hands catcher. I'm thinking Jordy Nelson, to be honest with you. I know Jordy played on the boundary quite a bit, but they moved Jordy around too. Go back and watch that Patriots game where they absolutely roasted Bill Belichick's defense, and Jordy just ate them up out of the slot. That's kind of what Dontavian Wicks feels like to me. But Tim, what do you think about this chart here, bro?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Tay Wicks is the man, you know, and to Jacob's point, you know, talking about how we were pretty decisive with how we put this receiver core together. It shows just what we have with Goody, which is someone who's willing to look at an entire body of work from a college player and not just go on the last hot year that they had. He's rating these guys as a whole. That's how you find gems like Reed and Wicks, and those are, two of the tips of the spear, so to speak, when it comes to our offense.
Just one tip, though.
There you go. But it's a 1-2 punch, if you will. At times when they're both on the field together, it's like we look very dynamic, especially when you've got Watson and Dobby out there too in some of these receiver sets. But one or the other, giving guys a breather, moving guys around, there's always multiple threats. And that's a testament to the way our scouting department and our general management is run here in Green Bay. And it's just it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely, man. And obviously talking about Sharts here, Greg Ross says, just one quick little comment.
Wash your hands, wash your butt, man. That's it. That's all.
I agree.
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them, though.
All right, so there you go. I just thought it was cool. You mentioned Dontavian Wicks. We talked about him. We talked about him in the second half of the season. He really popped off the film. We're going back and watching the rewinds, and you see it all over the tape there. Now you've got Greg Cosell mentioned him, which he mentioned in pre-draft. Now he's mentioned him now. He could have mentioned Watson. He could have mentioned Dobbs. He could have mentioned Musgrave and Kraft. He specifically put emphasis on Dontavian Wicks. So,
right. And Reed. The two guys he mentioned are the two dudes on that chart.
Yeah. Which it plays right into the conversation we had about, listen, don't throw the checkbook at Romeo Dobbs or Christian Watson. Make sure it's Packer friendly, And again, you can get ahead of that. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't get what they're worth, but you can't let one of them two guys, reset the market unless they come out and actually do something that deserves resetting the market, right? So let's get back to the rest of this pod here.
So interesting for them to take Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson in 22 and then come right back and take Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks in 23. They took Jordan Morgan in the first round on the offensive line. He's been moving around to several different spots. I'm going to be curious to see where he settles in. They played him at both guards and both tackles in camp. You don't see that very often, Greg, for a first-round pick playing four different spots in OTAs.
They ended up through the last half of last season, and it worked out okay, playing Rasheed Walker at left tackle and Zach Tom at right tackle. You probably are familiar with Walker. He's a Penn State kid. He was a big-time recruit. He was only a 7th-round pick, but he was a 3-year starter, I believe, at Penn State.
Yep.
And, they ended up playing those two guys at tackle, and it worked out okay. So they probably think Morgan, who I think does not have long arms, and I think that's why he's viewed as a guard. But he could well be a starter at maybe right guard if Jenkins stays at left guard. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Really excited about that as well, how the offensive line may shake out. If Jordan Morgan has impressed equally at left tackle, left guard, right tackle, bro, the value on that, a 4-year deal, rookie contract, what is it, like $3 million per, and he can play all over the line except for center. You got Jacob Monk that they're really high on out of Duke that could potentially be the center of the future, as well as, hey, it could be Elton Jenkins, it could be Zach Tom. What if, I'm just saying here, what if Zach Tom's healthy, they come out, and Jordan Morgan is the real deal, right? And Jordan Morgan plays right guard, Zach Tom plays right tackle, the rest of the offensive line set, you get through another year, Josh Myers at center. Then next year, you either kick Zach Tom or Elton Jenkins to center, you let Josh Myers walk in free agency, and if it is Zach Tom that goes to center, you just plug and play your boy Jordan Morgan at right tackle, and now you bring Jacob Monk up, who's got to sit a full year and play him at right guard. I mean, it sounds like Goody's playing chess, but anything you guys want to add to the offensive line talk? Any thoughts that trigger there?
Like he was saying with the short arms, Bach had short arms, so we really don't know if he can't not play tackle. So you're not going to see anything in OTAs and stuff like that early because there's no pads, there's no real contact or anything. So it's going to be a telltale sign once we get Tim over there looking through the fence.
That's right.
In training camp. So I can't wait to see it because that's really going to be a deciding factor. We're going to pay Jordan Love all this money. We talked about it a long time. We got to build a nice wall around Jordan Love to protect him. And we talked about that during draft season, and I think we got it. We just need to figure out the right way to stack the blocks.
I'm so glad you're the one who said we need to build that wall.
I was going to say, Emilio, what?
We've been talking about that since draft season.
Is it going to be a big and beautiful wall?
Emilio is the only person, because of his Mexican heritage, that he can say that on this pod. Any of the rest of us honkies in here would have got canceled.
Yeah, because of his Mexicanity, he can say that. So.
Anything else you guys want to add to the offensive line talk here, man?
I'll just say real quick that this whole scenario that we're putting for these top 5, we're not even thinking about guys like Donovan Jennings, who I think really does have a spot on this team coming up
we haven't
quick.
talked about him, right?
Guys like Travis Glover, we drafted him.
Yep.
Like I haven't heard anything about him, which isn't good or I guess to hear. But we also forget about guys like Luke Tenuta and Caleb Jones and guys that are. Sean Ryan could surprise everybody and their mother and come out and all of a sudden, hey, I figured out how to play football, guys. And that would be cool. So, I think there's a lot of stuff going ahead. Like Emilio said, the short arms thing, he's got little T-Rex arms, as the PFF guy likes to talk. He's just, that's what they said that about a lot of guys. So if he can slide in and play guard, then cool.
I like this comment right here. Eric says, Tim, the PTA peeping Tom.
Bro, really? He's getting us the inside information.
The media guys have those media passes, the big ones hanging. We're just going to get one made that says PTA peeping Tom. That's going to be Tim.
Bro, really?
Come on, Tim. You can pull this off, man.
Tim's not having it. Tim's going to get a press pass for
peeping Tim instead of Tom. How about that? Does that sound better?
I think the first.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
Of course, Eric would be the one to bring that up, right? All right, so let's get back to the rest of this take here. Oh, Tim, you got anything for the offensive line there, Bob? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it all goes to Emilio's point that he had just a few minutes ago. It's the best 5. I don't care where they are. Whatever the best 5 on the field at the same time, protecting Jordan Love. That's what we want running this offense. So, we'll see what happens as camp develops.
Definitely.
What about the new defense under new coordinator Jeff Hafley, Greg? They made the change at D coordinator. They took guys like Javon Bullard, Edgerrin Cooper in the draft. Your thoughts on the Packers defensively?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what Jeff will do as far as his concepts and his approach, but they certainly look. Cooper can run. I mean, I would think they'd expect him to start. Now, again, with rookies, you never know, and there's a lot to learn for linebackers that are basically stacked players because there's a lot that they have to decipher and understand, so that can take time. But he was the most explosive athlete of the top linebackers coming out in this past draft. Bullard, in some ways, when I watched his Georgia tape, reminded me a lot of Brian Branch. Because Bullard 2 years ago was the slot corner at Georgia. This past year, he played safety. So he can do a lot of things. He sees things really well. You wouldn't say he's an elite athlete, but he's just, I hate to be cliched, but he's just one of those guys that's a really good football player.
Love it. So obviously talking about Bullard, talking about Edgerrin Cooper, we know that the early reports coming out of OTAs, and it's just OTAs, are that when they're in the nickel defense, it's been Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie. So maybe they're looking to ease Edgerrin Cooper into that role, play possibly Will or Mike in that nickel 4-2-5. But I do know this. Matt LaFleur said they tried to throw a little wrinkle at him. You guys remember? Mm-hmm. And they said Edgerrin Cooper completely sniffed it out. Matt LaFleur immediately looked at the offensive coach and said, did y'all tell them y'all were going to do that? Now, no. So it seems like he's got it up here at a very, very quick stage. So what I want to see with Edgerrin Cooper is him play better than Quay Walker last year, even more so his rookie year. I want to see him just boat race everyone in the linebacker room and make no mistake. Edgerrin Cooper is the mock. He's the guy that's going to be on the field if you're in a dime package. He's the guy who's just going to take the bull by the horns and take over this defense. Like Greg Cosell said, kind of curbing the enthusiasm. The reality is there's a lot that goes into that. It's kind of a long shot, but that's what I'm praying on my sweet baby Jesus about right there. So anything you guys want to add other than Bullard? Like we said, 2022 played a lot of slot. He mentioned that. So it sounds like Brian Branch, we might have gotten the the Ross version of Brian Branch, right? Pretty cool. So anything you want to, guys, we'll start with you, Tim. You're the defensive guy. What do you think about what he said there with Edgerrin Cooper, Javon Bullard? Anything you want to add, bro?
It makes me think of this picture right here. That's what Edgerrin Cooper's reaction is when they try and pull a fast one. I tweeted that a couple days ago.
I love it.
Really?
Really?
I think for a rookie, he's got pretty high FBI as we talk about football intelligence, and he's got great off ball and on the ball skills. It's just going to be cool to see how he's deployed in this defense. And he looks like one of those players that's going to make guys around him better. He may reinvigorate some of the the guys that are a little bit older. Not that we really have any old guys, but kind of just find a new fire when you get some of that youth with a new draft class. Even guys like Quay going into their third season, having a guy like this in the trenches with you, it's just going to be awesome to see these guys grow together.
Right. You got your buddy next to you, and he just flies in and just absolutely blows somebody up. You're telling me you're not going to get happy? You're not going to get psyched up about that? Let's go. That's the kind of tone we're going to set today. I love it. I think he's probably going to run. He'll be his Quay's side man for this year. I would think. Let him at least learn the position, learn everything about it, run through, make mistakes, all this and that. Let Quay still call the plays if he's going to be our dot or if it's X or whatever. But then, on next year, after he's through his rookie year, he had to go through the combine, all that. He hasn't been able to just, focus on Packers football. Let him get through this year just playing. And then if we want to switch him to Mike next year, I'm cool with that, just depending on the performance.
Jacob?
I mean, man, it's hard to contain my excitement being it's the offseason, and I don't want to be like a Bears fan and every offseason be like, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Everything's going to be awesome. We're going to get our first 4,000-yard passer.
The Bears still suck.
That being said, I mean, I really do think that this team in every aspect just seems like they have not taken a step back in any way. If anything, and you could argue that every single positional group on this team has improved, and I don't think that there's one that's more improved than we talked about the safety position, the linebacker position, Edgerrin Cooper. In addition to just being like he physically is a freak, we talked about that when we watched his tape. He was so explosive. There was no decisiveness or indecisiveness. He was just to the point, like and shedding blocks or avoiding blocks, and just hear that this is what's happening in the OTAs in the minicamp. It's. We're not saying that it's a done deal, but it's lining up to the point where you're like, yeah, all right, the hype was real. Everything that we thought this guy could be, he could be. And I think there's a few players yet that still, once the pads go on, I think we'll see that more hopefully from guys like obviously Cooper, Hopper, Bullard, Williams, when Oladapo, Home Depot gets back out there. Hopefully we see that from him as well. And again, that's going to motivate, like Tim said, the rest of the team, some of these older guys, some of these these long in the tooth 28-year-olds, 29-year-olds, they better
easy, Leo.
So,
no doubt. Ron Sample says, Clayton, will they typically be stunting as much with the front four? I don't really have a true answer to that. I will say this: if we pull up the Jets' defensive identity according to the 33rd team, one thing I will point out: you can stunt a lot. You can run a lot of what they call games up front. With a 4-man rush, but it typically happens with a 5-man rush. And one thing that you'll notice here when it comes to the Jets, they only brung 4 rushers 80% of the time. That was the most in the league with a 4-man rush, right? 5 rushers 12% of the time. That was 31st most in the league. 6+ rushers 3% of the time. That was 27th most in the league. So if Hafley decides to go the Robert Saleh approach that the Jets took, you're only going to see a 4-man rush. I think you'll see very limited stunning going on there. I could be wrong. The answer to your question, if we do run the Jet-style defense, would be to go watch the tape with the Jets and see how much stunts they actually ran there with the 4-man pressure, or the 4-man rush, I should say. But obviously with Robert Saleh, it's, hey, let our front get pressure with front 4 and leave that, what is it, 7 in coverage on the back side.
Right. Tim, you did that.
I did.
Clay, let me add, did you keep listening to that Ross Tucker one? when he was talking about the Vikings defense and bringing 3 rushers the most in the NFL and bringing 6 the most.
No, but the last thing I heard was the J.J. McCarthy comment where Greg Cosell said, many people I spoke to across the league had a third round grade on him. I went, yes.
And then, he was talking about the Vikings defense and that they were first in the league in 3 rushers and bringing 3 rushers and bringing 6 rushers, either in total or on third downs, I think it was. But it's going to be a completely different defense this year. I don't know, what he's going to tune up. I don't know if he's going to be bringing the backers, if he's going to bring cat blitzers or whatever. But it's going to be cool to see how he is. It's like, is this Matt LaFleur's offense? I think they've all been Matt LaFleur's offense. As he's had his, as he's had players to run it, just depending on what he has. But I think Hafley's going to have Hafley's defense. It's just going to be cool to see what it is, depending on the players we have right now.
Yeah.
Prince just stole my comment here because I was going to say that they had a 3rd round grade on McCarthy or JJ, whatever. I was told that Pratt was a 2nd round projection. And the only reason that he fell so far is because literally like every single team that needed a quarterback got him in that 1st or 2nd round. And he just tumbled to the
injury too, which he's completely healthy.
Right.
So that's a great point. 49ers, another team that we might be compared to quite a bit on defense. You see 4-man rush right there, 78% of the time. That was 5th most in the league. So they were cut from the same cloth. 5 rushers, 15% of the time. That was 24th most. They did bring 6+ rushers 5% of the time, which is 12th most. So and again, you look at that, you look at what Saleh did, and you go, okay, San Francisco did things a little bit different, a little more aggressive. Oh, by the way, they fired their defensive coordinator. So maybe Shanahan looked at that and was like, hey, listen, that's not what I want. I want a 4-man rush type approach, right? That could have been the case. So, it's going to be fun, man. Again, we'll be charting all this stuff and keeping up with it as we go. Let's see here. Let's wrap up in the chat. We got a couple of chats here, Mark. Smitty says, maybe an ignorant question. Is that concept similar to how the 49ers deploy Bosa? I'm not sure what concept you're talking about earlier in the chat. That was real early, about the 32-minute mark.
That was when you were talking about how they'll use Gary.
Yes. I think Gary is our Bosa in this defense, hands down. He's going to be playing left end, right? That's what I think. So, yes, I think they'll be focusing on a 4-man rush with that 4-man front, 1-gap approach. You got 3 stack backers behind them in the base, 2 in the nickel, probably bring a spur safety up from time to time. You may even go big nickel where you'll have Bullard, technically a safety, playing the slot, and you'll have a safety, whether it's Anthony Johnson Jr., Olahome Depot, or our boy Evan Williams playing in the boxes, that spur. That could be the approach. But, yes, where Bosa played, Nick Bosa, that's going to be Rashawn Gary's position, hands down, man, for sure. Coach Lynn said after drafting Kraft and Musgrave as pass catchers and Lloyd that can catch out of the backfield, he said add drafting those guys. Yeah, Lloyd out of the backfield, I'm telling you, man, I'm looking for Marshawn Lloyd to be a big piece of this offense this year. I'm excited about
thick.
That. He is thick. Thicker than a polo oatmeal. Coach Lynn says it's no coincidence that Wicks and Reed live and work out together. Obviously those are the 2 guys that keeps getting mentioned the most. And again, we're not trying to dog Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I think you got to go to Romeo early and say, like I said, man, I've been saying it all along. Hey, Romes, here you go, bud. You want to go ahead and get this? You want to get some security in your pocket? 4 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. Here you go, bub. And then you go to Christian Watson with the same offer. If you can split $20 million in cap hit over, amongst those 2 players, bro. And if they don't like it, okay, cool. You feel good about Reed. You feel good about, like I said, Wicks in the slot, Reed in the flyer /Z. And then you got Bo Melton that you could put in the boundary X.
Blake
Keith. Yes, absolutely.
Think about how weird of a kind of a backhanded compliment that is for Christian Watson, where it's like, hey, man, we would offer you like 13, 14 mil, but we just don't think that you're actually going to take it. So go ahead and test the market. And even though we really want you back and you haven't really, done exactly what we wanted, you're going to go out there and you're just going to get like 23, 25, maybe even close to who knows what, $1 million a year.
It sounds silly, Jacob, but you're on something there, man. If you go to him now, again, we're talking about 2 years out. If you go to him now and go, bro, you're gonna break the market if you hit free agency. Just want you to know that. You know that, right? If you want to be here, we'll go ahead and get you some guaranteed money now. We want you to be here, but you're probably going to price yourself out of our range in 2 years. That is not a bad thing. I'm not saying he would accept it, and nor should anyone think that he should be obligated to. I'm just simply saying if they came to me and said that, I'd be like, man, that's actually pretty cool. They're acknowledging how good I am, and they're trying to put guaranteed money in my pocket right now. It doesn't mean you can't renegotiate later either if you just absolutely blow up. If you keep on the path that you're on, I'm okay with splitting a $10 million cap hit amongst those two, right? Or I'm sorry, $20 million amongst those two, 10 each. And you do it that far out. Again, if it's a 4-year extension, what do we always say? 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal, right? 3-year deal is really a 2-year deal. I think that's how I would approach that, get ahead of the game there. While everybody else is zigging, we're zagging, So that's pretty much it, guys. Anything else y'all want to add? Anything that we didn't hit on that you want to kind of add a little emphasis on? Anything at all, Tim? What do you got, man? Anything?
I'll tell you what I got. I got that awesome package in the mail today.
Woo! I can't wait to get
shareholders out there. Got my tickets for the shareholders meeting, and get to get our voting done. And I love getting mail from 1265. That's awesome, right?
That's awesome.
Heck yeah, dude. Emilio, you got anything, Bo?
Nothing, man. Keep drinking water. Still hot.
Bro, it's been a hot one.
It's
telling you,
gonna
man.
be hot.
And Mandy looked at me in the pool today. Oh, she said something earlier that was hilarious. I've already forgot. I was going to mention it on the pod too, man. It was a zinger. Anyway, yeah, we were in the pool. She looked at me. She said, "You okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." Well, she's like, "You just look really spaced out." And I'm thinking, pretty damn hot, to be honest with you. It's been rough. So, Jacob, what you got, bud?
Oh man, I just say that I'm excited for this off season. Hopefully we protect, hydrate. Every now and then you got to to it on that thing, and I'm just saying, let's go Pack go.
We almost made it.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Almost made it to a full episode without the hot.
Just the tip, though.
Damn it, Tim. All right, that's it. We're out of here. Appreciate you guys. This was a lot of fun. We'll be back tomorrow. Got some stuff I got to take care of early in the morning. There's a chance we'll do an early afternoon pod and then a normal podcast tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time. And then we'll be back to doing a morning and an evening show on Sunday as well. So, Jacob, you got something you would like to share with the class, sir?
Nah, I'm good. I already did enough.
All right, there you go.
Oh.
Emilio, what do you got right there, man? Give us the spec.
It's just the impact, little M12 impact, 1/4-inch hex, ready to go. I'm just saying, Milwaukee.
It's good.
Milwaukee's pipeline events coming up next week, I'm pretty sure. So just keep your eyes peeled for it. New tools being released.
Are you a rep?
No.
Milwaukee? You could be.
Who do you think you are? I am.
All right. Tim, can you help me out here, bro?
Yeah.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us a part of your day. I don't know why you do, but thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Don't act like these knuckleheads, all right? Other than Tim. Tim's the mature one in the group. Go back up.
The power sweep actually is the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. From the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.